And we're live. Hey, people. Welcome to the Sports Therapy Association podcast, episode 218. My name is Matt Phillips, creator of OneShotLive.com. And as always, this episode is being recorded live on the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel and on the Sports Therapy Association Facebook page. Normally, this live recording happens at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. But as you will have seen, hopefully, in the adverts, this episode is actually being recorded at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And I feel so cleansed, and it's lovely having a lunchtime episode. But why are we doing that? Most importantly, well, as I put again in the adverts for this, some of our guests, shock horror, for example, mothers of little ones, don't have the luxury of taking an hour off in the evenings, as exemplified perfectly by our guest in this episode, Sonia Fierro, who will be joining us very soon. Sonia is the new host of the Women in Sports Therapy podcast and community. Some of you will already know Sonia as a hugely popular speaker at Therapy Expo, but for listeners who are not aware, Sonia has a huge history of working in both private practice and in elite sport, including GB fencing, GB diving, as well as in swimming and in rugby. She's the founder of Recover Stronger, with a particular interest in strength, sports and functional fitness, and has herself been a competitive powerlifting athlete, holding an Italian deadlift record. So to talk about her own presentations at this year's Therapy Expo, as well as the Women in Sports Therapy Q&A panel or discussion that's happening in the STA Theatre at Therapy Expo, we're going to bring up Sonia Fierro very shortly. If you have somehow in your busy lives managed to take pre-lunch hour off, like Nikki Mansfield, then do feel free to say hello. And when you do join us live, then I can bring up your comments like this on the screen. Nikki says, lunchtime hello from chilly Cambridge, sir. It's beautiful. Exactly. This has already sounded like something from the Waltons. If you're listening to the podcast and you like the idea of joining us live, then like I say, normally it's at 8 o'clock in the evenings, but we might start doing, if it proves popular, we might start doing something in the daytimes as well, just to be more inclusive, which is what it's all about. And I'm sure we'll be talking about that later on with Sonia Fierro. So I think that's all the housekeeping done. Sit back, enjoy yourself, and let's bring up Sonia Fierro. Hey, Sonia, how you doing?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. All good, thank you.
Good afternoon. It's lovely. This is the first time, you know. This is the first time, and so far it's going.
I just realized. Oh, I can't say good morning. It's past 12 o'clock.
Exactly. It's true. Very good. Very British. Very Anglified. Yeah. Thanks so much for giving up your time. I know you're super busy, but it's kind of. I mean, let's get straight into it. The fact that you are joining us at 12. And you weren't able to join us in the upper episode we did, which we planned, which was with Gemma and Sarah back in 213. That's kind of a little bit what we're talking about, aren't we, with WIST and everything?
Yeah. I think that there is this, notion or belief that moms and parents are always free in the evenings after kids' bedtime, but I think that doesn't actually happen until a bit later, or at least it didn't happen for me yet in 2.5 years of having a baby and then toddler, because not all kids are the same, and some have huge sleep issues. We had quite big ones. And the evening is still a challenge. And I thought that this time I would spare all, your listeners of more crying and desperation on camera. I think we had 2 episodes like that, 3 with the WIST one, and then I didn't make one. So yeah, it was time to say plans needs to change.
Do you think getting into the kind of meaning and the goal behind Women in Sports Therapy, do you think the tradition of doing things in the evening at kind of 8 o'clock is a little bit kind of patriarchal? Do you think it was invented by men for men? Or was that going over the top a bit?
I don't know if we can say it was patriarchal. I know that, that came out really weird. I know that is really how society is built. Everything revolves around, 9 to 5. And the assumption is that people have 9 to 5 jobs. But as we know in our industry, that's most often not the case, and it becomes a real issue when you're a carer. It's not just women, but if you are the primary carer for kids, or you may have an elderly relative at home that you have to care for, and sometimes early morning, evenings are a challenge because you need to be there, and even if you do have a supportive partner at home, if they are in a 9 to 5, like by the time they're back home and you have dinner and everything, you can't always take time. And it is definitely like something that is so ingrained in society that we don't actually realize sometimes that there's a lot of people in a different situation, and it's not just us, it's shift workers, and essential workers are often working in shifts. We think, oh, evenings are free, adult people will be free in the evening, but it's not really the case.
It's really nice hearing you. I mean, because the title and everything about this is Women in Sports Therapy, but knowing you very well and knowing how intelligent you are, your emotional intelligence is huge, because some people might think women in sports therapy is going to be very militant. It's going to be very, women need this, men stop oppressing us, stop waving your penis in front of us, metaphorically or literally, and just leave us alone. We need to do this. But it's not really about that, is it?
No, it's not about that. And I don't think it's about, you said oppression or like just men not realizing the issues we face. That's for sure a huge part. I think that the biggest issue is with society, how it's built, especially in this country, how maternity services are not working, how childcare services are not working, and how like the entire workplace is not working for parents, and again, not just parents but people that have to care for someone else, or I would extend that to say for people in general, because it's become so challenging. And if you live in a big city, you think an 8-hour shift plus an hour lunchtime, plus you may have an hour to 90 minutes commute, like even in cities like London, that's 10, 11, 12 hours of your day gone. And, it's a challenge. It's not a good life anymore. And I think something needs to change. And in terms of like women in sports therapy, I think that the issue is dual. Yes, there's, a lot of things in society have been built by men. So there's that tradition that we kind of have to bring awareness of, first of all, because a lot of people don't realize that, a lot of men will not realize that, but also women need to learn to speak up and take their place. And I think I mentioned this in the past, I mentioned this at Therapy Expo. Therapy Expo has always been, and any expo, in other industries as well, most speakers are men. And there's actually research about this saying that most speakers in a lot of industries tend to be men, most podcasts. And we need to have that courage to say, no, we're good as well. We can do this, and we should do this. So take our space and show everyone else that we can do this, so that more women then will speak up and take their place and fulfill their potential.
That's really interesting. And I remember, time means nothing now. It could have been 5 years ago, could have been 10 years ago, but it erupted, this fact. We started talking about manuals and how, like you say, a lot of guests were men. And I remember talking to Jack Chu of Physio Matters about it, because he's had loads and loads of guests, and I think he was criticized once of, oh, you only have blokes on it. And he was like, whoa, hold on. If you could see the amount of emails that I send out asking female guests to come on the show, and half of them either don't reply, maybe because they can't reply, or they're not free. He says, it's not that I'm trying to avoid them. It's simply because something in society means that they just don't come forward. And one of the most common bits of feedback we get from the show, which is so nice, and we really, really love it when we get these emails, is when people like yourself or the other female guests we've had on the show, and we've had I used to count it, but now I know it's at least 50-50. In fact, I think we're dipping our feet into more women than male guests. It's just, we get feedback saying that it's so inspiring, and it's made other sports therapists or massage therapists actually get involved more in public speaking or standing up for themselves or talking out where normally they'd kind of shelter back. So there is quite a lot of confidence, I think, involved in it, which again might be the fault of men and a patriarchal society, but I think confidence is an issue.
Yeah, confidence is definitely an issue. I mean, there's research even in like workplace settings, and looking for jobs and interviews where they've noticed that men apply even when they have less than 50% of the skills that are required, and women tend not to apply unless they can fulfill 100% of the skills that the ad is describing. So there's definitely something that is kind of ingrained in us. If wanting to make sure that we can do something and we can do it well before I don't know, coming public. Probably there is a little bit of that fear. Probably a lot of that is from tradition, and again, how we are raised to be in our place, to be good girls. And there is, the discussion could be huge, and is probably something we should chat with psychologists, because there's a lot from there. It's not just how we act in our jobs, but it's great to see that there's more and more women. And I think it started with academia as well. We know academia used to be really male-centered. All professors and tutors were male, and slowly more women got into academia. And then because of that and research as well, there's more people coming from those environments and speaking at expos, speaking on podcasts, and showing that we can do this. We can be here, and sometimes you don't need to be a super expert or a researcher or someone with 30 years experience to share your experience. Sometimes it's just about that. It's not about knowledge.
Great, brilliant. I look at you, and people who are listening to podcasts, you can't see Sonia at the moment, but I read about you. I think I first saw you advertised. You were on Therapy Expo. I hadn't met you before, and you were speaking with Jack Cairo Rob.
Yeah, Rob Crowley.
and I'd read about you, and what stood out probably just because I love strength and conditioning stuff was like, Italian Deadlift National or whatever it was. Like, what was the title you held?
It was the deadlift record. I held that for a few years. Was broken by some youngsters. These youngsters can train and are super strong. But yeah,
you were probably that youngster's inspiration. She probably had a poster of you on the wall somewhere or another. But and then obviously I met you, and the preconception I had between any kind of female Italian deadlift one, I felt so guilty afterwards, thinking, wow, this girl is going to be gunned up and stacked. And then people can't see you, but you're not somebody who you'd walk by and think, well, yeah, they're definitely a deadlift champion. But how did you get into it? Was that kind of in your history a battle, a little bit of sexes, or just proving it, or standing out?
I wouldn't say a battle of sexes. It was more like probably like a battle against myself and my limited beliefs. So I've been in sports my entire life. Is why I do this job. I was a figure skater and track and field athlete in my youth. I had an injury that meant I had to stop skating, or at least I had to stop skating at the level I wanted to be, because I was trying to be in the national team, where Italy is one of the strongest nations actually in roller skating. And then from there, I took a completely different route. I went into marketing and communication, and did bachelor, master's, started working in Italy, moved to UK, started working in offices, realized this is really not for me. I can't sit at a desk. And then thought, what do I want to do? And I always had this feeling I want to do something for people like me, athletes that got injured and never had the help they needed, because my injury got mismanaged, and it is a big part of why I couldn't continue. And then while I was going through that process, I started joining a gym again. I've never been a gym person because, I was a 90s kid. So you grow up thinking you have to be, small and lean and not muscly. And the gym is a scary place for women. You think you get bulky. But I joined the gym, and then I discovered CrossFit. So I got into the CrossFit world. I started doing, my competitive nature resurfaced. So I started doing some small competitions in CrossFit. From there, weightlifting. And whenever I was in CrossFit or in a weightlifting environment, I was always told by coaches, and I knew myself as well, that I was the person that moved well, and it was gymnastic and agile, but I wasn't strong. I was able to do like really big weights for the strength I had. So it was always kind of the limiting factor. You're not a strong person. And then one day in the gym, we were playing around. We were doing, some of the guys were doing rack pulls, and I was just trying. My deadlifts had always been probably my strongest lift. and I always loved it. And doing rack pulls, I managed to like pull 3 times my body weight from the rack. That was with straps and like above the knee, so didn't count anything. But I was like, oh, this would be amazing if it was my actual deadlift. And a couple of years down the line, I was like, you know what, I can't really train weightlifting because I wasn't around CrossFit gyms. I was working with teams. I was working in clinics. I couldn't make it to like a gym that had space with platforms and proper barbells. So I started thinking maybe I should try powerlifting. Like you have squat rack and bench everywhere. I can train that anywhere. And I had this thing of maybe I should try to make that lift a reality. And then I think within a couple of months of training powerlifting, I actually managed to pull 160. That was like 3 times my body weight. And I did my first competition, and then everything evolved from there.
So what did you weigh at the time when you did the 160?
So I was around 56, 57. No, wait, at that time probably a bit lighter. I was probably 54, 55 when I started, and then I was competing as a under 57 lifter. So when I did my record, so the highest pull I had in a competition was 183 and a half.
And a
half, because that's how you put records and to win a competition. And that was as a under 57, so it was 56 kilos. So it was a bit over the 3 times.
Amazing. And I guess knowing that, the reason I love hearing about that is it kind of explains, I think, for people who go and see what you talk about, who people go and sort of are amazed at how inspiring you are and the motivation you give others. I guess it all boils down a lot to your own personal experiences, and you've been there, you've had the battles, you've had people doubting you, telling you can't do that. And so passing that on, that's the wonderful thing I think about our career, isn't it? When you can inspire others, can you draw upon that personal experience? And amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like everything I went through with my injury always helped me for sure in the elite sports settings, like getting the younger athletes to know I understood them, because I've been an athlete as a young person, and then as an adult I was going back to Italy, like trying through COVID to fly back so I could compete there, so I could be considered for the national team. And there are other struggles that people that have not been in sports sometimes don't realize, don't understand. And then it can look like a charming life when you see athletes in TV or on the media, but there's a lot of challenges that they face. And I think it's always good for them to know that someone kind of understands it from within, from their own experience. And then, that evolves over the years. Now is, with women. I had a chat a couple of weeks ago with someone that is, just discovered they're pregnant and they want to continue training, but they are confused. They don't know what to do. So it's reassuring. You don't have to have had an experience to be a great therapist or a great coach, or, I'm not saying that unless you've gone through something, you can help a person going through something, but it helps. It helps with, them feeling they can trust you and having that little bit of reassurance, for sure.
Yeah, I love hearing that, because I always remember, I think it was probably Dr. Gary Mendoza we had on the show a couple of times talking about motivational interviewing and that. And some people think that to show empathy, you need to have experienced what the person's gone through. But if that's what you use to try and connect with the person, going, oh yeah, I've done that. Oh yeah, that happened to me. That's not empathy at all. That is turning the conversation away from them and onto yourself. So people get confused with that. And you can show empathy. You don't have to have experienced it. It's all to do with the language you use and opening up the dialogue for that person and listening and that sort of stuff. So, but it does help. If you've got empathy, if you're a good communicator and you've experienced it, then that's pretty powerful, I think.
For sure. And I think there's some little things and little shades that unless you've gone through something, you don't really fully appreciate it. Even if you have a lot of empathy, you're a really good listener, and you research and you try your best, there is sometimes some little shadows that I think you can only fully appreciate if you have gone through something. And like what you're saying as well is like, you can, if you have gone through something, you can also appreciate that you don't want the other person to say, oh yeah, I've gone through that, like, oh yeah, I have experience of that. But like, it's easier sometimes to just be there for the person because you know how it feels on the other side.
Do you think, and by the way, we're straying totally away from the questions I was going to ask you, but it's just so interesting. I think it's really interesting to listeners, because now I'm thinking, do you think male therapists have maybe a fear of not being able to help female therapists because they haven't been through it, because they haven't been pregnant, because they haven't kind of gone through the menstrual cycle, and it's tricky for them? I mean, is that a good example of where they feel like, I can't be empathetic with this person because I don't know what they're going through?
I mean, I think that question is more for you than for me, because like, I don't know, I haven't been there, but you know, before becoming a mom, for sure, I was thinking, I have a good understanding of this physiologically. I have a good understanding of what the body's goes through, like pregnancy and childbirth, and afterwards. I have a good understanding of what women go through emotionally and psychologically. But as I was saying, there's some little things that I probably didn't fully appreciate until I became a mom. And I think it's probably really similar for men. I mean, even just not having, you know, a monthly period, like, you can fully appreciate like the pain that some women are in, like even more so with endometriosis as conditions that can take years to be diagnosed. Like, women get dismissed by doctors. We know that's a huge problem in healthcare even now. So yeah, I'm sure there is some of that, and for sure there are great therapists that really do help women, but probably I would say they do question themselves sometimes whether they know enough. And yeah, I don't know, that's more for you. Like, what step or what suggestion would you give?
No, it's a leading question, because I personally believe, I think kind of what I said before is, to show empathy and to be a great communicator and help someone, you don't have to experience what they're doing. No. And this is particularly relevant if you're a male therapist helping a female therapist, because if we look at the low-hanging fruit, sure, if it really is at a higher level to experience exactly the pain they're talking about or the emotional distress, then that's different. But the lower hanging fruit of listening to somebody, and then having that, being able to introduce a little bit of education along the way in a way that's going to help them absorb it and reflect and change their behaviors. I think, guys, thanks to people like yourself, and this is why I'm going to ask, this is why I'm talking about it, because I think one of the goals of WIST is not just to look after women, it's to kind of empower guys as well, which we'll talk about in a sec. But there's an awful lot of information that male therapists can take from you guys and use to help women. And I don't, again, now I'm going to put myself in the place of a woman, but I in the case of female patients I've talked to, they're really not bothered if you're a male or a female. You're a human, and they need a human to talk to, I think, you know. So
I think people want to know that they are the person in front of them that is meant to help them is there for them and is gonna listen and is someone that they can trust. They're not gonna care whether you know, some people may have a preference, but generally speaking, people are not gonna care if you are a woman or a man, if you're younger, if you're older. It's more how you relate to them and how you communicate with them. And that's a whole different skill set that unfortunately most courses and schools don't teach. But like, if you can do those things really well, it doesn't really matter. The problems, I think, surface when someone hasn't got those communication skills and comes out a little bit like preaching or lecturing. Then of course the first reaction, which is normal psychological reaction, is like why are you trying to tell me that? Like, you don't even know. Like, yeah, you might know, you know, from the books, but you haven't experienced this. And I think it's something we can really relate to, because it's something we often face with doctors. I had honestly, I think in the last 2 years, most of my burnout and issues have been fighting the mainstream healthcare. And I have a couple of conditions that are not really well understood. They don't really give me problems day to day, but they are not really well understood and they need a certain type of management. And the worst is going to a doctor, to a GP, and being told something when you know is wrong. In courses, we are told, or at least I've heard this 1,000 times, if you meet someone with a specific condition, whether it's rare, whatever it is, they are the expert of their condition in their body, so listen to them. So the worst thing you can do is just tell them, oh no, but it's not like that because this condition works this way. And it's like, no, it doesn't, not always, not in my experience, and I have it, you barely know what it is. So yeah, I think that you can do a lot to help people if you listen and you understand that even if they don't know anything about their body and they don't know anything about therapy and how we recover from injuries, they are still the expert of their body and their experience. So that should be like your guiding post. That's what you have to take in consideration. Whatever you know about the body, that's what matters the most.
Definitely. Great advice. That's going to be the little clip I choose to on social media. You look so serious when you're saying that. It's perfect. Great. No, amazing words. Don't forget, people, if you are joining us live, and thank you very much. You're welcome to put questions in there. Nikki has had a reaction to your deadlift record. I knew she'd reply to that. My deadlift 1RM was just over 1 times my body weight, 80k, and that was a trap bar. Nikki, it's all relative, it's fine. I'm sure you experienced a massive high being able to do that. And thanks, Nikki, for also, I just saw earlier on, you said she's squeezing us in between her Pilates class and her first client of the day. Great time management. Well done,
thank you for being here. And deadlift is one of those, women are scared of deadlift, so probably more than men, for no reason that I can see. It's just something, I mean, we are constantly fed in media deadlifts are not safe, and I think that's, you've been to my Therapy Expo talks, that's been covered quite a while, and this year I'm gonna expand a little bit about that for women, especially around pregnancy. I think so many women can lift a lot more than they are lifting. And there's a fear of weights, fear of, getting bulkier, bigger, not having been around gyms enough to feel confident, feel that, the weights section can be scary, depending on the gym, can be, especially if it's really like bodybuilding style gyms, the looks. But I think so many women can do so much more. And it's just about coaching and keep doing the lifting. And
I really enjoyed, if people are listening, well, we're going to talk about what you're doing at Therapy Expo shortly, but it just reminded me of kind of your journey. And it wasn't kind of one of these kind of like Hello Magazine journeys of you having a baby and you weight training with it, but you posted some stuff on there which just kind of showed, again, in a wonderfully, here's a little look at what I'm doing. I'm not forcing upon you, and it won't be right for everybody, but it just showed, because you were kind of told, I think the guidelines were like, don't pick up anything heavier than a handbag or something in the first.
Yeah, I mean, the guidelines are still those, like don't lift more than a couple of pounds. And it's like, why? Like, I'm so much more, I'm so much stronger than that. Why should I stop lifting weights just because I'm pregnant? Like, women have been going through pregnancies, working in the fields, working in all different type of settings, and for sure healthcare and safety wasn't the same 100, 200, 500 years ago, but like women can do amazing things, and finally research is kind of catching up to that. In CrossFit we have seen like something that is just unbelievable, like women giving birth and 6 days later being at sectionals to try to make it to the games. This means that like that person was 8-9 months pregnant, doing workouts as prescribed, full weights, full movements, including gymnastics like muscle ups, and then giving birth, and 6 days later being in the gym with full weights and doing muscle ups, which is of course outliers, but like women are able to do these. Like there's some women doing amazing things, so we really need that research to catch up. and show that no, you don't have to stop lifting weights. And if there's moms of multiple kids, they know there's no way you're not going to pick up your toddler that is not going to be 2 pounds. So yeah, it's so limiting and is really fear mongering, which is the worst for me, the worst part of it.
Amazing. Right, yeah, I really want to hear more. Before we go into your, I've got to stick to the script to get some stuff out here.
Yeah.
So, but we're definitely going to talk more about your presentation at Therapy Expo. For people who are listening who don't know what we're talking about with Women in Sports Therapy, it's WIST, and it's yourself and Gemma and Sarah. So that's Gemma Pouzas and Sarah Packard. And you're kind of the new voices to something that was started off a while back by Fiona and Deborah. And one of the things I'm interested, so there is a podcast there, people, in case you're listening. It started off in 22, I think, and there's quite a few great episodes with some amazing guests. You were one of the guests on one of them.
Yeah.
And so people should check out the Women in Sports Therapy podcast at the older episodes, the V1 episodes, as we'll call them. But V2 now is, I love the way you say it's not going to be just a podcast now, it's going to be kind of a community. So before we go and talk about Therapy Expo, give us a little idea of what people can expect to be happening in the future with regards to WIST community.
So yeah, when we started chatting about like what can we do, and like we realized, like me, Sarah, and Gemma, we were all saying, yeah, the podcast is great, but the podcast tends to be like one-sided. There's one side presenting to the audience, and even if you have different guests, even if you go live, there's not that much interaction. And yes, you can cover topics, but like that interaction, that connection is always missing. And especially as women, the moms there, we talked at the beginning of this conversation about the issues of sometimes, showing up live. So even if you're really interested in something and you have questions, if you can't be there, if you listen to a recording, it's not going to be the same experience. Even if those people are available to answer questions later, it's still not the same experience. There's no connection. So we were all saying we want this to be something else, something more. And we thought about creating a community. The STA is great. It has a great a great Facebook group that is really active. But sometimes like you might feel a little bit, you don't want to share some struggles or put some questions in an open group. And we feel that it's not just women's health questions, but about business, about those fears that we were talking about, showing up and, speaking up in expos, etc. Sometimes you do want that like female environment and feeling safer in that environment. So we thought, okay, we need a community. We need to be something more and be there for women and allow them to voice their concerns and come to us telling us what they really need. So the community opened yesterday. We had the first few people joining. There will be more and more happening there. And what we aim to do with that is really having people feel more confident also by helping someone else. Because if I post a struggle and someone has gone through that, we want that person to answer with their experience, with their advice. They don't need to be one of us. Like, it's not just, advice from us. We want to lead the way so that there are more women can be there supporting one another. We are not, the main experts in this field. Sarah, for sure, has done a lot more with women's health, but then I have limited experience. I'm not scared of saying that. I do work with like pregnant women and postpartum women, but it's never been the sole focus of what I do. So yeah, we need everyone else to contribute and do more. And the community is going to be just for women, but then we are still going to continue with the podcast, other resources, and even meet and greet at Therapy Expo, where, as you were saying earlier, we want men to feel part of the discussion and tell us like their fears, like you were saying, what challenges they face when treating female patients and what they want to know, so that we can with time create those resources as well.
Amazing. Sounds amazing. And if listeners are interested in hearing about this firsthand, then as I said before, you're going to be yourself and Gemma, not Sarah, sadly. I believe she's going to be sunning herself somewhere.
Yeah.
But Gemma and you are going to be presenting Women in Sports Therapy, Building a Stronger Community. And that's going to be on day one of Therapy Expo this November, which is like 3 weeks away. Oh my God, it is.
I know.
We better get writing our presentation, Sonia. I think this is like the ding ding bell. But yeah, so 27th, 28th. So we'll be on the day one on the Wednesday at 10:15 a.m. in the STA Theatre. So if you are going to Therapy Expo, it'll be an amazing way to start the day. And in fact, prior to that, unfortunately, Michelle Lyons was going to be chatting before you guys and then joining you for the Women's Sports Therapy, Building a Strong Community. But unfortunately, Michelle can't be along at Therapy Expo this year. But Michelle has put us in contact with a colleague, Christiane Bird, who co-founder of Menopause Movement, who is going to be stepping in for Michelle, which is wonderful news. Christiane is going to be delivering a session called Power the Pause, the Pelvic Floor, and more. And that will be directly before the Women's Sports Therapy, Building a Strong Community, and then she'll be joining you. So it's still going to be a great morning for therapists who are interested in helping women in sports therapy and being women in sports therapy and working with either female patients and other therapists. So that includes guys as well. It'd be a really interesting conversation and reflection. So I'm going to bring this up for people who tell us that they love a bit of imagery on YouTube. That's what YouTube's all about. So you can see on there when that's going to be. But as we can also see, and this is where if you listen to the podcast, you might want to go along to YouTube to have a look at the screenshot of all the things that Sonia's doing. You've got a pretty busy day one, Sonia. Have you planned this to collapse after day one and then just keep your feet up for day two?
No, I think it just is my ongoing issue of not really being good at saying no. And yeah, I can do that for sure. Let's go. And then realizing, oh, actually everything is on day one, because usually I had 2 talks in as a keynote presentations, and they would were day 1 and day 2. But because of my daughter and, struggling to be away a couple of days from home, Therapy Expo was really kind to put everything in day 1. And then, it was the STA panel, and they were like, oh, do you want to be on this panel? Like, yeah, sure. I didn't even check the times. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to be bouncing off one end to the other all day. But it's always a lot of fun. So I don't mind.
You really are, though. Yeah. Just we'll need a hand signal for coffee or whatever your poison is on that day. Just we'll need a code word, and then I'll just make sure that you get brought one, because you're going to be bouncing around. Let's have a little look at what else you're doing apart from the WIST presentation. So like we say, that's going to be 10:15 in the morning in the STA Therapy Update Theatre. And then at 11:05, so you've got 25 minutes to get there. That's pretty cool. You're going to go over to Theatre B. And that's going to be 11:05, empowering pregnant and postpartum athletes, debunking myths and optimizing recovery in the new era of exercise. We've already kind of touched a little bit on that, but what are your goals for people who attend that to walk away with?
I would say definitely to be aware of more recent research that has been showing that lifting weights and things like the Valsalva maneuver, so holding breath or even laying on your back and benching when you are pregnant, are not actually as risky as once thought. So that if women are involved in these sports or even impact sports, like there's women running really late in their pregnancies now, that is okay. And we can support these women rather than being a bit scared ourselves as therapists and, scaring them off from doing anything. I mean, birth is one of the hardest things that women will go through in their life, at least physically. And I really think that, you need a strength foundation for that. So you need to keep exercising. Some women will struggle because of other symptoms like nausea and not feeling really well or energy levels. That's absolutely fine. But like if you feel you can, you shouldn't be just scared of doing more like all the functional fitness, let's say, activities and lifting and more high intensity. There's new research also about like raising your heart rate. We were always told, oh, you shouldn't really raise your heart rate, it's dangerous. And it doesn't actually seem to be the case. And then, as we were saying earlier about postpartum as well, I think there's things don't really work how they are now. Like we have this 6 weeks check and you're told ready to go, but there's women that would have done really good recovery in those 6 weeks. I would have started some rehabilitation, some pelvic floor work, and some that have done nothing. And then there will be some that, maybe are just home with their first newborn baby and they can rest and they have lots of support, and some that have to go back, to fairly physical jobs at 6 weeks. And we are kind of lucky in UK that we have that protected period. If there's listeners from like America, we know that that's a huge problem there, where they don't even have the protection, and sometimes they're thrown in really physical jobs straight away and they can't afford to take time off because they don't have maternity leave. And we need to learn how to support these people when they can't rest and they have to go through that recovery, but at the same time support the ones that they want to go back in sport, and not just saying no because you are 4 weeks postpartum and you shouldn't do anything, because some people will be able to, so we should support, not stop them.
Fantastic. So it's going to help therapists to attend. It's going to help empower therapists to empower the women and kind of spread a little bit of better information. And
yeah,
excellent.
Yeah,
Great.
And then following with the Q&A with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, because that's how we mentioned, like last week when we were chatting with all the Therapy Expo people, Molly and Vernon and Charlotte, how this year the STA Theatre, a lot of the people who started off in the STA Theatre are now keynote speakers in that, which is amazing. So rather than trying to compete with that, we're offering opportunities for people to come and see the keynote speakers in the STA Theatre for a more kind of intimate Q&A session, which people love. And it's like you were kind of touching on earlier, it's real healthy interaction. The interaction there is a great way of learning. The main theatres are amazing to expose you to information. It's probably a good idea for some people to take a pen and paper along, because otherwise you just get home and think, I remember nothing. My head's just gone. What did I see then?
Yeah, for sure.
But the Q&A sessions and that in the STA Theatre hopefully will be a chance for you to reflect. So yeah, we've got you after Theatre B. We've given you 35 minutes, pretty generous to get there. And then, yeah, you'll be doing a Q&A on that very topic for 25 minutes in the STA Theatre. Then you get a chance for a little bit of lunch. Nice. Don't go too far though, because at 2:50, you're in Theatre C. And that's going to be a presentation entitled Challenging Women's Health Inequalities Within the Therapy Sector. Without giving too much of it away, what are people likely to gain from visiting that?
Well, it is going to be a panel. So hopefully that's also going to be, there's going to be some interaction with the audience. It's not just me. There is other therapists on that one. And we really want to, kind of I'm missing the word there, sorry, give our experiences. Give is not the right word, but like you guys, share was the word. Share our experiences, and then and the experiences we had with our patients and what they've been going through, and all those struggles, and what we can, or at least what we think we could do to better support women and women's health and all the issues we see within the sector.
Fantastic. That'll be and that's actually 45 minutes in there, so that'll be a really good chance for people to go along there in one of the big theatres to get involved as well. And obviously, again, for both male and female therapists, hugely important. Because people forget, don't we? I mean, at least half of your therapists are going to be not the same sex as you. They're going to be male or female. So we really need to talk about these topics together. Amazing. And that's all you're doing that day. So pretty light. Nice.
And in between, you'll probably find me, like, apart from the coffee and lunch breaks, around the STA stand. I'll be there with Gemma, representing WIST, and we want to meet as many therapists as we can. So do come and search for us. We would love to hear more from you about like what you want to see from WIST, the support you feel you need, the topics you want covered, and just to meet you like in person. So yeah, I'll be hanging around the STA stand.
Fantastic.
Waiting for you.
There'll be and next to the STA stand as well, we've got properly signposted this year the speakers lounge as well, so that'll be a chance for you people as well to have a chat with the speakers who are free and not running around too much, but that'll be really cool as well. Last year I think it became a little bit of a kind of a storage space for Anna Maria Mazzieri, but this year we're going to police that and she's got strict lines of so that can be fun.
Yeah, I think it would be really nice. I really like the format that it's been created this year with Therapy Expo, because I find that a lot of people are not really feeling the questions in the main theaters. It can be, again, a little bit scary. Like some theaters, like some of the presentations is like a full theater with people standing. I had a couple of those, and I know it can feel scary to ask a question there. And I will often find that, oh, anybody has any questions? Silence, not really. And then as you are like trying to exit the theater, like you have people stopping you and coming to ask questions. So I love the having the Q&A in the STA theater later on. So it's a more informal setup. You're closer to the audience, and whoever asks questions can come there and have them answered. And you can dig a little bit deeper in what I'll cover with the presentation.
Dig a little bit deeper. That's good. Exactly what we'll do. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I love about Therapy Expo, and it has sounded like the last 5 months in the lead up to it, we've just been kind of like really going on about it, but they do listen to feedback and they are trying to make it an educative experience as well, because we're well aware, we all know it, that you go to a conference and if you just see too much and take in too much, you literally do wake up on Monday or whenever it is and just think, I've got nothing out of that. I don't remember anything. It's just an overload. You can't learn that way, but you like trying to do a degree in 3 months, just non-stop back to back. You need to live it, absorb it and take it in. So
yeah. And I think when you try to have too much and too many topics and everything a little bit different, becomes also a bit superficial. So a lot of the talks end up being all these like nice little words or giving examples, but like not really giving people anything practical that they can take with them. And that's what people want from expos. They want to learn something that they can apply, or at least that can spark an interest and then go and learn more. But I think, that unless the expo really put some work into the program and trying linking the presentations, it ends up being a bit like a bit of this, a bit of that, nothing really in depth. Whereas this year they've done a great job, and day one is really women's health focused, and one of the theaters is really women's health focused, which is great, because we know, especially from last year, that there was a lot of interest around those topics. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this new setup, and I think people will love it.
Excellent. Great. I don't know whether it's possible for you to think about post-Therapy Expo, but what else have you got kind of planned apart from the WIST stuff? Have you got anything else that you're doing with Recover Stronger?
I'm in a little bit of like I've been pausing and trying to figure out how to better set up things for myself, because I'm facing some of those women's challenges with workload and life in general. So I'm trying to re-juggle everything. I have a slightly new format for just clients coming up in terms of like training and how they can work with me. And in terms of therapists, I'm still running kind of I'm not really advertising this as much, but like mentorships, like one-on-one mentorships. I did plan to launch a course last year, but then I kind of paused on that because it was becoming just too much with everything else. So hopefully that will happen at some point in 25, but I'm not quite sure when and how yet. So yeah, if anyone is interested in getting some support, I do run one-on-one mentorships for therapists. So generally they are focused on they're like either business help, because I've run my own businesses, a gym, a clinic, online, or telehealth work that not many therapists do, and all the communication, marketing, as well as communication with patients. So I've been helping a few therapists really juggle how they offer their services and how they interact with their patients, so that their retention rates have improved and their rehabilitation adherence has improved, because that's, is one of the biggest issues we face. People don't do their exercises.
Amazing. And that's, so I mean, best for people who want to keep in touch with that, Instagram is still the main place for people to follow you?
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll make sure that goes in the show notes, but that is, if you're listening, you've got a pen and paper handy, then that is Sonia.recoverstronger. So Sonia.recoverstronger on Instagram. And there's a great feed. Like I say, you can go back and there's so much valuable information in there going back years and years. So have a little look at that. And then also, if anything you've been interested in regarding women in sports therapy, then you can follow that across social media. And that's at UK_WIST, WIST. So UK_WIST. But obviously that'll be, as always, on the show notes. But if you are going to Therapy Expo, then now you know what to do on day one. Your day one is now planned out. And join Sonia on her.
Follow me around.
That's it. And yeah, we'd love to see you there. And also, like Sonia said, and it's so important as well, do come and say hello to us at Therapy Expo. We've said it so many times, it's not just going to presentations, it's the conversations you have with other therapists in between those talks, which probably are going to stay in your head, because you're going to be interacting and talking and remembering and reflecting. So do come and say hello, particularly, as Gary Benson has magnificently said, if you're going to Therapy Expo by yourself, which is why Gary set up the STA in the first place. He doesn't want anybody to be alone or feel alone. So if you are going to Therapy Expo by yourself and you're not quite sure and you're feeling a bit of a daunting process, just come to the STA. It doesn't matter if you're a member or not. You soon will be a member, because you just realize how amazing we are. But come along, just say hi. We heard the podcast and I'm just first time here. I wanted a bit of guidance. Bam. You will be probably taken to a corner by somebody over 6'6". There's a high chance that person will be over 6'6". So don't worry about that. It's just coincidence. You'll be looked after. Amazing. Right. Well, thank you so much, Sonia, for giving up your time. Really appreciate it. And for people who joined us live, then thank you very much. If you listen to the podcast and you want to join us live next week, we're still bringing you news and speakers who are going to Therapy Expo. Next week, we'll be back to the normal time of 8 o'clock on Tuesday. And that's going to be with James Earls of Born to Move and Born to Walk, who's a fantastic favourite Therapy Expo as well. And a really, really nice bloke on top of everything. A wonderful educator. So James will be joining me next week, Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the evening.
Sorry, I was just reading Nikki's comments.
Nikki Mansfield has just had let's say, if I buy you can I read this out loud? If I buy you an Anna Maria each espresso, will you let me just stand there and listen while you talk Italian to each other about absolutely anything you want? Asking for a language gig. Yeah, it's a beautiful experience, isn't it? Just watching Anna Maria and Sonia Fierro. It's true. I should have that photo now handy, but I haven't got it. But there will be more Italian magic, I'm sure, at Therapy Expo as well.
Yes, yeah. We can send this to Anna Maria. I'm sure she will be happy to, as long as there is espresso involved, I'm sure she'll be happy to.
Yeah. It's one of my jobs across the day, yeah. Fantastic. Well, thanks again, Sonia. Really appreciate spending time with you, and see you in person in like 3 weeks or something.
Yes.
Good luck with putting your presentations together.
Yeah, need to get onto that, not to be like running with, my little
USB stick, last minute.
USB stick like every year. It's like, sorry, I'm late, guys, but yeah, this is here.
This year's gonna be different, is it, Sonia?
Yeah, I don't know. I always plan for to be more organized. We'll see.
It's good. At least this is giving us both of us. Believe me, both of us is giving a 3-week call, so we can crack on with that.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
As always, until we meet again, just take care of each other. Bye-bye.